Here's Dr. Michael Salla.
One of the most intriguing aspects of Gene Roddenberry's creation of the Star Trek franchise was his relationship with a mysterious extraterrestrial group calling itself the Council of Nine, that were being channeled by the psychic Phyllis Schlemmer in the 1970s. Roddenberry sat in on channeling sessions from 1974 to 1975 and participated in Q&As that were recorded in Schlemmer's 1993 book, The Only Planet of Choice. What lent credibility to the Council of Nine was that their existence was confirmed in the famous Law of One channeling sessions held from 1981 to 1984, which are widely regarded as the most authoritative channelings ever conducted due to the strict scientific protocols used by a retired applied physics professor, Don Elkins. These historical events provide important context for Elena Danahn's most recent contact experiences, where she claims to have been taken to Jupiter's moon Ganymede, where she met with the Council of Nine and was told why Roddenberry was chosen to prepare humanity for a Star Trek future. Elena contacted me on November 3rd about an encounter she had just had with the Council of Nine. This is the same group that accompanied the Intergalactic Confederation that took up residence on Ganymede to observe humanity's global awakening. After I wrote 2 articles on the 4 independent sources describing the new extraterrestrial visitors to our solar system, Elena told me about being taken to Ganymede, where she first met with the Intergalactic Confederation. Her subsequent November 3rd encounter focuses on the Council of Nine's relationship with Gene Roddenberry, creator of the Star Trek series. This is how the message Elena sent me begins.
I woke up last night abruptly, my forehead tingling with the sensation of a vortex spinning inside of my head. I sat on my bed and saw in front of me the ethereal figure of the tall white woman from the Intergalactic Confederation, whom I had met on board one of their motherships in the vicinity of Ganymede about a week ago. She expressed herself in the same holographic language, composed of thought form frequency modules. She pointed a finger at my forehead, and the extremity of her finger started to glow with green light. And at the moment her green glowing fingertip touched my forehead, I was propelled inwards into a powerful vortex. I felt as if I disintegrated, as if all the molecules of my body stretched into space. In a normal circumstance, this could have been frightening, but it seemed that in this state of consciousness, I was unable to experience fright anymore. A shimmering haze of light materialized ahead of me. It was opalescent white and contained silvery and golden sparkles. I sensed several presences in it. Then a soft voice resonated inside of my head with a slight echoing effect. It wasn't theatrical at all, as one could expect. It was instead really soft and gentle, masculine. "We are the Nine," said the voice. My whole being shivered. A few seconds passed and I started to see humanoid silhouettes forming from the opalescent, glittering haze. 9 silhouettes, I suppose, all very tall and slim. As one approached closer to me, I felt a similar sensation, like the pressure compressing your ears when you are in a plane and it takes altitude. Well, this was the same sensation, but experienced by my whole soul. The being took appearance of a tall extraterrestrial similar to the Patal, but I was well aware that these plasma supraconsciousness beings from the Nine Collective had in truth no real corporal form. I knew they could shapeshift in anything, and the form they chose to represent themselves to me was probably meant to improve my contact experience. The elegant, 9 feet tall being had green skin and wore no clothes. He was thin and had a long neck. His head was bald, his skull slightly larger than human at the back, and he had beautiful slanted eyes, sparkly inside in purple and garnet tones. I noticed he had 5 long, elegant fingers at each end. This was happening for a reason, and as the being remained silent, I understood I probably needed to ask questions.
As briefly mentioned in an earlier article, the first communications with the Council of Nine began in 1952 and involved different psychics used by the famed US psychiatrist and paranormal investigator Dr. Andrija Puharich to make contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Puharich secretly worked with the US intelligence community, which included the CIA and US naval intelligence, that sponsored his work with various psychics to gain knowledge about extraterrestrial life. It was Puharich who helped launch the career of famed Israeli psychic Uri Geller with the publication of his 1974 book, Uri, A Journal of the Mystery of Uri Geller. After Schlemmer spent 20 years channeling the Council of Nine, she wrote The Only Planet of Choice. In it, the Council of Nine explained themselves as follows. Quote, "There are many who try to understand who we are. In your earthliness, it is difficult for you to accept that you do not understand. At times, the attempt to understand colors the truth of the universe. There are only keys for unlocking portions, for the human mind cannot totally comprehend. There are many interpretations and also many conflicts about who we are. Yes, in a future time, we will attempt to explain ourselves on another level of consciousness. But first, planet Earth must reach the state of evolutionary consciousness where we may understand. Yes. The Council has said, do not try to put us into a box. We do not exist in that form. Yes." End quote. This description is consistent with the non-corporeal forms encountered by Elena on Ganymede and the Council of Nine's enigmatic communications. Crucially, the Council of Nine referred to a future time when they would explain themselves more fully. This appears to be happening right now through their contact with Elena. What gives important credence to the existence of the Council of Nine was that they were mentioned in the Law of One material, where their operations and identity were briefly discussed as follows. Questioner: who are the members and how does the Council function? Ra: I am Ra. The members of the Council are representatives from the Confederation and from those vibratory levels of your inner planes bearing responsibility for your third density. The names are not important because there are no names. Your mind, body, spirit complexes request names, and so, in many cases, the vibratory sound complexes, which are consonant with the vibratory distortions of each entity, are used. However, the name concept is not part of the Council. If names are requested, we will attempt them. However, not all have chosen names. In number, the Council that sits in constant session, though varying in its members by means of balancing, which takes place, what you would call irregularly, is 9. End quote. The Council of Nine is identified here as a group of 9 extraterrestrials associated with a confederation of planets, which appears to be identical to the intergalactic confederation that recently arrived at Ganymede. Later in the Law of One material, the Council of Nine is described as a highly evolved group that resides in the eighth dimension. Quote, questioner, where is this council located? Ra, this council is located in the octave or eighth dimension of the planet Saturn, taking its place in an area which you understand in third dimensional terms as the rings. End quote. The precise relationship between the rings of Saturn and Ganymede as the present base of operations of the Intergalactic Confederation and the Council of Nine is yet to be explained. This will be an interesting topic for future discussion. This finally takes me to the connection between the Council of Nine and Gene Roddenberry. It is a historical fact that Roddenberry attended Council of Nine channeling sessions and asked them questions from 1974 to 1975. These were personally challenging years for Roddenberry, who had failed to come up with another television series after the original Star Trek series from 1966 to 1969 had achieved remarkable success in syndicated reruns. His efforts to develop a follow-up series were continuously frustrated by television network executives. Roddenberry had to wait until 1979, when the first of the Star Trek movies appeared, for success to come his way, but this was only partial, since the director's position was given to Robert Wise. In the Council of Nine channeling sessions he attended, Roddenberry was especially intrigued by the prospect of future mass extraterrestrial landings discussed by the Nine. This inspired Roddenberry to write the pilot episode for a future television series that would appear 6 years after his 1991 death, Earth: The Final Conflict, which ran from 1997 to 2002. The impact the Council of Nine had on Roddenberry has been summarized by different researchers. Here is how an occult researcher, Wes Penray, summarized the connection. Quote, he, Roddenberry, was a member of the Nine Group in 1974 to 75 and even produced a screenplay for a movie about the Nine. It is also suggested that Roddenberry was deeply inspired by the information he'd received in the Nine sessions when he wrote the early Star Trek movies, The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, which was quite a giveaway. End quote. The deep impact the Council of Nine channeling sessions had on Roddenberry was also confirmed by another researcher, Chris Knowles, who wrote, quote, whatever one might think of the Nine, one thing that can be said without reservation, Roddenberry's experiences with the cult made a huge impression on him, and in many ways would form the basis of the rest of his life's work, as well as the entire Star Trek franchise. End quote. Penray and Knowles' comments provide important context for understanding the significance of what Elena was told by the Council of Nine with regard to Roddenberry. Her commentary is especially valuable for understanding the full significance of the relationship between the Council of Nine, Roddenberry, and humanity's emergence into a Star Trek future.
Are you the ones who contacted Gene Roddenberry? I asked. Yes, he replied. Why? Because we knew there was going to be a temporal war and we needed to create a bridge. As he spoke these words into my head, or shall I rather say, as he resonated these words within my consciousness, his holographic language contained far more than words. It carried content. Each thought module carried a story embedded in it. That is how I grasped that this bridge he mentioned was a bond from the past to the future, securing a progressive timeline, a Star Trek future, so to speak. By giving a huge download of information to a group of humans at one specific moment in time, the Nine Collective's intention was to embed into the collective unconscious of humanity the roots of their progressive future, helping humans manifesting it by the creative power of their mind. They enticed Gene Roddenberry and his entourage to create a popular series that would affect deeply and powerfully the consciousness of humanity of Earth for the generations to come. They gave a template which was planned to unfold over a period of time throughout series and movies. Star Trek resonated deeply within the consciousness of humanity, better than any other science fiction production ever made to this day. Maybe equaled by Star Wars, but only because it was so good and referred to the Orion Wars. Star Trek echoed an existing future reality by quantum resonance. This was the bridge. I asked. And has this bridge worked? Yes, it has, he replied. Now we are here at the other end of the bridge. You crossed the bridge to your future. We are here. We are the 9. As his words resonated in my being, I was sent backwards into this vortex, sucked back into my dimensional body on Earth. The disorienting sensation of being molecularly scattered infinitely reversed into compact form again. I reintegrated my body. The tall white lady was still here in my room, holding space to relay contact to the 9 collective. She smiled and vanished in the air. A smell of ozone lingered for a few minutes. I took a deep breath. My head was spinning with vertigo, but I managed to grab my phone and record my experience.
Elena's commentary here is vitally important. Star Trek was conceived as a bridge to a future reality in the midst of an undeclared temporal war between rival extraterrestrial factions. The success of the Star Trek series was therefore attributed to humanity's collective unconscious, recognizing it as a potential timeline that needed to be embraced in order for it to come into reality. Elena's communication with the Council of 9 is also stunning confirmation of material in 2 of my previous books, the US Navy's Secret Space Program and Nordic Extraterrestrial Alliance, published in 2017, and Space Force, Our Star Trek Future, published in 2021. Both included chapters that discussed at length the connection between the US Navy, Roddenberry, and the Star Trek series. These 2 books made clear that Star Trek was a soft disclosure initiative that was secretly supported by US naval intelligence working through Leslie Stevens IV, the creator of the Outer Limits TV series that ran from 1963 to 1965, who had secretly helped Roddenberry come up with the original Star Trek series. In addition, my 2 books made clear that the US Navy had begun cooperating in the early 1950s with a human-looking group of extraterrestrials best described by a former aerospace designer and engineer, William Tompkins, in his autobiography Selected by Extraterrestrials, published in 2015. We now know that the Nordics described by Tompkins were members of the Galactic Federation of Worlds. This all confirms that there was indeed a significant extraterrestrial component working with the US Navy and Roddenberry to come up with a soft disclosure initiative that would prepare humanity for a Star Trek future. As Elena succinctly pointed out in her commentary, Star Trek was a bridge that would help humanity collectively manifest a positive future in the midst of an undeclared temporal war, where negative extraterrestrial forces, Draconian Empire and Orion Alliance, tried to manipulate humanity to bring about a galactic tyranny 350 years in our future. In another article, I explained how this galactic tyranny was first identified by yet another extraterrestrial organization, the Andromeda Council, who notified the Galactic Federation of Worlds, which intervened in what had become a wide-ranging galactic temporal war where humanity's potential timelines were being heavily impacted by different off-world groups. Elena's encounter with the Council of 9 and their confirmation about Roddenberry's role in shaping human aspirations is vital for understanding where humanity is collectively heading. It is another historical fact that the creation of the US Space Force, Space Command, and a multinational space alliance are tied in to an official 2019 Space Futures Workshop report which identified a Star Trek future as humanity's optimal scenario in space. The Council of Nine, through Elena Danaan, has just confirmed that they and other positive extraterrestrial groups have been quietly nurturing a Star Trek future for humanity in a temporal war, which is coming to a decisive end, as previously reported. Consequently, we owe a huge collective debt of gratitude to Gene Roddenberry and many others who diligently nurtured Star Trek as a bridge to a future reality which is going to happen far more quickly than anyone anticipated. This has been Dr. Michael Salla with Exopolitics Today. I wish to thank Elena Danaan for permission to use her recording of her encounter with the Council of Nine in this podcast.